Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Love Wrestling Reacts to NJPW G1. Holy crap, I ran out of breath on that one. Well, welcome to the show. I'm Cody. That's Belle. How's it going tonight?
You know what? For the first time in this thing, I am not sipping tea. I am sipping an energy drink to try to recover from last night. Because after watching that main event live, I needed a couple hours to desensitize and really kind of accept what I saw. What a show! What a G1! These last 3 shows have really put me through the ringer.
Yeah, you're telling me I just watched all 3 of them in 24 hours.
Everything's blending together.
Oh, it was a trip, that's for sure. I needed time to decompress in between numerous of these matches and didn't have the time because it's been a busy week, even with all of this going on. We're going to start at the beginning. We're going to run through everything. We'll go through it match by match, show by show, break it down where we ended up. Let's jump into the first night of the week, though, which was our A block final. Lots of different stories coming into this one. We touched on it that the A block was kind of a cluster going into the finals. We had Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi, Kenta, and Kota Ibushi all still alive at 12 points going into the show. Zack and Shingo had their own matches, and then Kenta and Ibushi faced each other. So there was so many different permutations and calculations and tiebreakers that even Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton couldn't keep track of what was happening and how tiebreakers were going to work. The show itself, though, kicked off with just the Great-O-Khan having his special showcase match, where it was supposed to have been his match with Naito. At the end of his block, his points were already calculated at this point. There's no more points for Great-O-Khan to get. It ended up going down the same as many of the special showcases have, where it really is just to showcase the abilities of the G1 competitor. I personally felt that this match, actually, the biggest thing that stood out for me is that the Great-O-Khan basically felt like he dominated Kojima throughout, whereas in a lot of the other matches, it felt like the replacement for Naito really had a lot of offense. Kojima didn't really ever feel like he got that in this. He didn't seem nearly as effective. This really, really seemed like it was putting over the Great-O-Khan as the dominator.
I 100% agree. And of course, everyone knows Kojima is one of my personal favorites. I always like seeing him. And he himself is right. He's a very strong striker and could stand up to Great-O-Khan. I mean, I would almost say that his arms are probably twice the size of the Great-O-Khan's. But I definitely felt that this was more of a brute strength kind of battle. But definitely, I agree with you. It was definitely a showcase for O-Khan. Although good for O-Khan for letting Kojima get in his little elbow drop after the machine gun chops in the corner. He doesn't typically get those after the machine gun chop. So it's been nice to see him actually hit it off. But yeah, absolutely. I saw O-Khan actually struggle just a little bit to get the hand securely on the face of Kojima, but after that, leveled him. Match was over. Definitely a good match for O-Khan.
Yeah, Kojima had a couple strikes here and there, but every time he did, it really felt like Great-O-Khan just kind of overpowered him ultimately at the end, which is an interesting thing to see when you consider a young guy coming in against somebody with the veteran skills and experience of a Kojima. That usually they like to put the younger guys a little bit through the ringer and make them take their lumps, and they really didn't do that with O-Khan here.
I agree.
Not a lot to say about that, though. I mean, the showcase matches have been fun. They've been good. It's been something different to see in the G1. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to see more than one match out of Naito, but I did enjoy the alternative of what they did give us in their place. The next match that we go into was the only actual block match of the night that didn't have final A block winner repercussions around it. Toru Yano versus Tomohiro Ishii. What did you think? I'll let you lead on this one.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised at the fast start from Yano, especially like you mentioned going into this, that it's not a deciding kind of points match, but you could tell that Yano was really wanting those 2 points on Ishii. And I mean, might just be the conspiracy theorist in me, but Ishii did catch one over Yano in the G1. I believe not in 2019, but 2000. Oh, it might have been 2019 where he actually, Yano was actually trying to play the straight laced, kind of not going to cheat, not going to do the mat thing, and Ishii ended up beating him with the low blow to get the points over Yano in that G1. So I almost thought that maybe it might be a little chip on Yano's shoulder coming into the fast start on this. I also enjoyed the is it the hockey jersey kind of play that he did, pulling the shirt up over Ishii and just feeding it to. I really enjoyed that. Got a good laugh out of that. That was a new Yano shenanigan that I could get used to. The corner pad where Ishii took off the corner pad and actually just threw it in Yano's face. Always a good spot, throwing things in Yano's face. But, once Yano started firing up partway through that match, brought out his amateur roots, I always appreciate seeing him do those classic belly-to-belly throws and really kind of starting to get a one-up. But there was also that low blow spot back and forth they kept trying to do on each other. Always amusing, always shenanigans. But, of course, ball shot into the backslide finish. Yano steals those 2 points from Ishii, and I would say that they're probably even now.
Yeah, no, you touched on a lot of what I had noted here as well. The kind of what I picked up on at the beginning is Ishii was a lot like Shingo at the start of this match, where he just didn't want anything to do with Yano's shenanigans. He kind of let him pull the spots, but he just looked like grumpy Ishii, letting Yano goof on him until he had enough. And it was actually quite fun seeing grumpy Ishii just like staring him down. And then you mentioned when they got back to the amateur roots, I did take a note that Ishii actually called out Yano in the match saying, "No, we fight straight up." And Yano actually like kind of stopped goofing a little bit at that point and actually tried to, pull out the amateur stuff and prove to Ishii, yeah, I can fight straight up. And went a little bit back and forth there, and then, back to more shenanigans for the finish, and Yano with the backslide for the win. I don't know what you're talking about, a ball shot. I didn't see anything like that in this match, but
your monitor must have gone out.
It must have. I must have turned my head or something. I was too busy watching Taito Nakabayashi and whatever he was doing. So Yano with the win to end out. Ishii finishes at 10. I think that had Yano finishing at 8, if I recall correctly. I think he was at 6 going in, and Ishii was at 10, and they finished at 8 and 10.
I had Ishii, or Yano was at 8 going into this match, so he finished at 10.
So they both finished at 10 then. Okay. Which is interesting. Yano and Ishii, you never think they'd, especially with Ishii taking forever to get off 0 to begin with. So it ended up being a good tournament for both men. A lot of what you expect from them. I don't think anybody really expects Ishii or Yano to ever be a winner, but they're always somebody that's good for, that surprise upset or that, classic main event once or twice in the tournament. Next up, we go into Yujiro versus Shingo. And we play this Shingo at 12, Yujiro, I think, was at 4. That Shingo needs the win in order to, stay alive, with Ibushi and Kenta being in the main event with a guaranteed 2 points to go somewhere in that match. Yujiro doesn't want to give it to him, though. Yujiro, quick start, suicide dive before Shingo even got in the ring. And to start, it was just a brawl between the side, throwing each other into fences, I think it even took difficulties briefly there. We dropped ourselves, but like turn around, battling outside. You have Kenta Sato just can't even get them back in the ring to start, so he just lets the belt outside the ring even. With a pimp stick hit again early. And then they finally got back in the ring for a little bit there, but Kevin and Chris were definitely making a point to bring up that it was looking like Yujiro had a game plan that he just wanted to get that count out on Shingo. And ultimately, it's what happened. It doubled pimp juice on the floor. Shingo gets the Death Valley driver on Yujiro, but ultimately they get to 20 for a double count out. Even though Kevin was promoting that it was probably going to be zero, like no points throughout the entire tournament for a double count out, that it only got a 1 point if you went to the time limit draw. They said that they gave the singles out here to Yujiro and Shingo, so that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that tope suicida from the beginning by Yujiro, that definitely shocked me. And then so I actually happened to look away to grab my drink when it happened. So when I came up and saw everybody on the floor, I was like, what just happened? Seeing it played back through a different camera angle, I was like, oh my God, he nearly missed him and kissed his boots. I was so scared. But they picked back up and definitely had a really great match. I actually thought that this was a really great match. And I felt that the way that as you had mentioned, the moves that Yujiro did to ensure that Shingo couldn't get into the ring, you're absolutely right. He went in there with the plan that he wasn't going to let Shingo walk out of there with a win come hell or high water. I feel that if they didn't do that, they probably would have had a Yano style kind of count out eventually. And I'm actually kind of happy with how this ended. I definitely obviously would like to have seen Shingo win, but that would have required a lot more math that I was just not willing to do at that time of night.
Well, the fact that they went with the draw point there and gave him the single, I think it played a little bit more into that drama at the end of the night that they had, going into the next match. They had Shingo, technically sitting at 13 with a single, so he's in the lead. So you need somebody to get points to catch him. It played out in such a way that they really, really, despite having 4 people in matches that any one of them could have ended up winning the block, they really stretched that out through the entire night and made it work that whoever was going to win, you didn't know until the end. And I appreciated that. It was well done. It was a really good story to tell in this, that, Kenta's in the money, in the mix to be the winner of this block. Yujiro is in Bullet Club with Kenta, that they can, go back and forth with each other to try and figure out a strategy for Yujiro to upset Shingo or like cost Shingo points and help Kenta end up being the eventual winner of the block. It was really smart booking on that part, and it was a really, really good match in how they played it out as well. I mean, Shingo ended up landing a Made in Japan as well. Didn't really clutch though, that he kind of in Japan with Yujiro's arms still kind of flailing free.
I saw that.
But
Yeah,
still only a 2 count there. A little bit of a delay.
Yep.
I think it's slight. Just the last point I had marked down on the match, though. I also appreciated the shout out to WCW and NWO Revenge with the count out strategy that Yujiro was going for, and how they really, that was a real deep callback to go back to WCW and NWO Revenge. I'll let you go now.
Yeah, this one, yeah. I don't think I actually have anything else to say about this one. The draw definitely surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was once he started playing that up, I thought we were either headed towards the count out for the early know that the draw was going 12. So next up was Zack Sabre Jr. and Tangaloa. Zack also sitting at 12 there, needing the win or at least a single to pull back even with Shingo. I picked up here after our conversation with the diagnostics that you talked about. Zack didn't run any diagnostics in this match. He went right in, fresh off the hop, jumping into that submission attempt right away and just trying to like immediately finish Tonga. It was like he didn't think he needed to diagnose Tangaloa. He already felt like he was better than Loa and he had his number and he could just get this done without needing to treat him like everybody else in the G1. Underestimating his opponent ultimately. And I think that's a cocky side of Zack we've seen in lots of years past that we hadn't really seen this year. And that cockiness just comes out at the very, very end and costs him. But also the formula for beating Zack Sabre obviously is just take it to the floor and brawl with him and don't let him get you in the ring. And Tonga does go to that. And they start talking again about, another Bullet Club member, another ally of Kenta possibly trying to take out his opposition for him. There was some interesting things with the countouts throughout this show that we'll get to it a little bit more in the Kenta and Ibushi match as well. But I noticed in this one too, they were on the floor together. Marty was at 17 when Tangaloa dropped Zack on the apron and Zack rolled to the floor again. So he never got in the ring. He got bounced off the corner of the apron and then Marty just stops counting to go outside to check on Zack.
Yeah. The countouts tonight specifically were a massive source of frustration for myself personally.
I also had the head scissors immediately into the chiropractor by Zack flowed really, really nice, and I really enjoyed that. And then Zack trying for the Euro clutch, them calling back to the match Zack and Tangaloa had earlier in the year, where Zack managed to steal the win with the Euro clutch, but Tangaloa managed to reverse it into just a roll up and steal the win himself. Take her away. What do you got from here that I didn't already touch on?
So something I actually realized is Tama Tonga actually beat Taichi in their bout, and Tangaloa beat Zack Sabre Jr. in their bout. Given how Taichi's ribs are holding up, they may actually have, I personally feel, a claim to those titles again. And I think you're absolutely right about Zack's feelings on Tangaloa going into the match. I think he definitely underestimated him. I think definitely because of their past interactions with Dangerous Tekkers and GOD. Obviously, Tekkers being the current heavyweight tag team champions, they probably, Zack especially, kind of a bit of a cocky guy there, kind of probably came in here thinking, I've beaten this guy before. I can do it again, probably just as easily. And I think that attitude is probably what led to the downfall in this match for him, or at least with the story he was telling. I did notice that despite, obviously his technical prowess, he had a lot of problems trying to sink in a submission throughout the entire match, just based on Tangaloa's sheer power and his ability to just muscle Zack into whatever it was that he really wanted. I felt this was a really great match for Tangaloa, also for Zack Sabre Jr. You don't really have a bad match with Zack Sabre Jr. He's one of those people who can just make everybody look good regardless of your experience or talent level. But I felt that he really did showcase Tangaloa quite a bit more in this, and that Tangaloa earned that win over him. And I look forward to seeing these guys fight it out again.
Yeah, no, it's always a fun one. A fun one when you get something like that where it's people who know each other and have history together too. All of the matches that Dangerous Tekkers and God have had throughout years and recently especially. Zack and Tangaloa definitely have a familiarity there as well that maybe goes a little bit underappreciated considering how much Zack is seen as a singles wrestler a lot of the time. Just going to give a shout out to everybody in the comments here because I've popped them up on screen but haven't shouted them out. We had Ed here calling us two of his favorite people. You're one of our favorite people too, Ed. Thanks for everything. I don't know if Carl's still hanging around, but Carl, our wonderful friend from Turnbuckle Talk, hopping in. Always amazing to have some NJPW talk. Happy to have other people hopping in here joining us. Astrid, welcome, friend, ally, natural, mega star, rising star. She's on everything we've put out today. She's been on the J&J Power Hour. She's been on Between Two Beards. Wonderful
Girl
to see you there.
power.
And then Omen found here as well. Tangaloa.
Yeah, good shirt, eh?
Wearing the switchblade.
You gotta breathe with the switchblade. He's killing it in the US right now.
Carl is still here, and I'm making Astrid blush again, and I'm happy about that. Yeah, we will go now into, I think, the final match of our A block, which is the one that ends up mattering because Zach dropped his points. Shingo sitting 1 point up at 13. You've got Kenta and Ibushi going into the match at 12 apiece. Whoever wins the match wins the block. If we get a tie, we spent most of the match listening to Kevin and Chris try and figure out what the tiebreakers would be. I think they settled on the fact that if it ended up a 3-way tie, Kenta would have got through because he had the win over Zach, who was next at 12 points. It was a mess. It was a mess, but I know you had some very strong feelings about it because I heard all about them in the morning. So give us your rundown, Mel.
This match is actually comparable. I don't remember which match it was that we mentioned before, but this match started up as a straight up MMA feeler start. They were throwing kicks, they were throwing strikes, kind of seeing who was willing to kind of give what. Yeah. And very, very similar, and Kenta's a very strong striker despite his size. He's one of those guys who's just deceptively strong for his, seemingly smaller size. The countouts, as we mentioned earlier, that was the biggest frustration for me personally, because, obviously, how hard is it to say 20? Unfortunately, it was not even a once in this match thing. It happened 3 separate times that Red Shoes essentially looked like an idiot because the individual did not get back into the 20 count. There were 3 points in that match where Kenta should have essentially won the match. And for me, afterwards, really thinking about it, I was like, this was the moment that I realized Ibushi wasn't ready to be back. He's not at 100%. He couldn't make it 3 times into the ring for the 20 count. He's better than that. He's infamously known for his timing and his just ability to be at the right place at the right time. So for me, this was a very obvious that Ibushi was not quite ready to be back, but he really was that Cinderella story in the G1 coming up out of nowhere for this match. There was one part where Kenta took out Ibushi's legs while he was setting up a moonsault. He hit every possible thing on the way down like a little ping pong ball. I didn't know how he was able to get up from that. Refusing to hit Kenta with the chair after Red Shoes, I believe, was taken out. And then setting up the table, that kind of started to confuse me. That's not something that I typically see out of Ibushi, because that's a very heel thing to do. And obviously, in this match, he wasn't the heel. The splash that he did outside, it almost actually, for me, looked like he wasn't even on the pathetic amount of padding that is surrounding the ring when he actually did that splash. So my biggest concern at that point was everyone's knees. Kenta really, really, really laid in the chops and slaps and strikes towards the end of that match. For me, that was almost an indicator that this was going into that final sequence. And then, of course, I believe it was a Kamagoye, and then the reverse Kamagoye ended up laying Kenta out and taking those 2 points. And it was that moment where I was like, my G1 dreams are gone. Nothing is going my way. But to be honest, though, this whole night, for my personal predictions, none of the next 3 nights went the way I predicted. But the shows that we were subjected to were incredible. So I can't be mad about it.
Yeah, no, they were absolutely. I did specifically mark out on my notes the 3 different spots. So there was the one early when they were brawling out behind the fence, where it was definitely a long 19, where you could have got a 20 in there before Kota got in. Possibly even before Kenta got in. I thought that one definitely could have even been a double count out. There was when they went and brawled all the way to the backstage, and as Kota's running down the ramp trying to get back to the ring, he called 19 and never finished. And that was all before the 10-minute call of the match, even, because it was very shortly after that one they called 10 minutes. And then there was the table spot where Kota hit I think it was the moonsault that he hit onto the table that had already collapsed. And then the table spot, Ibushi couldn't even get back up and in the ring in time. And he was the one that hit the move on the table. Yeah, I did specifically also make sure to note that Kenta did get a kick out from a Kamigoye in this match, though. That he took one and kicked out of it, and that's when Ibushi ripped the knee pad down. Kenta trying to get the game over, but Ibushi being just too squirmy to lock it in. Kenta blocked a Kamigoye there as well. Hit the Busaiko knee, tried for the G2S, couldn't get it. Took a wicked looking standing knee. Like Ibushi, that jumping standing knee was nasty. And then a reverse Kamigoye, then the exposed knee Kamigoye. So basically 3 straight knees to the face to take Kenta down. It was a great match, other than the Red Shoes having to do whatever to help Ibushi not lose to a count out when he couldn't get back in the ring in time on any of those occasions. I don't know. It was definitely the story that I think we kind of underappreciated or overlooked early in the G1 of Ibushi, how they were really playing up the pneumonia early, and him not being able to win and losing his opening match to Yujiro of all people. They like to do that kind of comeback story in these G1s where they have somebody that loses a lot early and has to chase it at the end of the day. I don't know why we need Ibushi in a 4th straight G1 final.
That's that Cinderella story I always mention.
Yeah. I don't know why we need him in a 4th straight final. Like you can't tell a Cinderella story of someone who's now made it to 4 straight finals and won twice. It doesn't work. Like you had Zack Sabre Jr. coming into his own this year. You had Kenta coming into his own. You had Shingo as someone who's been one of your most consistent competitors throughout the year as your top champion, when you haven't had the top champion win in a long time, and you decide to give it to the same guy you've given it to for all of these years in a row. It was a really disappointing way to finish what I felt had otherwise been a pretty strong tournament. Got Andre, that Canada dude, hopping in. Love the show. Also disappointed that Kota went to the final. Nice to see you, bud. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, I mean,
I saw the little message about the belt earlier from Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. She made me this amazing vampire belt.
You got a couple belts in the back. You got the one there. You got the 2 other ones, and then I see the really bright, shiny one in the back, kind of tucked in the corner there. Yeah. Before we jump to the
ones that matter the most up here.
What's your thoughts on Kota going to the 4th straight?
I mean, obviously, when it came down to Kenta and Kota, I obviously wanted Kenta. I've definitely felt that Kenta had worked, but with when I kind of thought about it afterwards, he hasn't actually held any other title, has he? Just the never openweight title, I believe. I don't think he's held officially the U.S. title. He's challenged for it, but he hasn't won it. I almost feel that, even though I was Team Kenta and I was ready for him to go, maybe he wasn't quite ready. Maybe he needs to win that U.S. title to be a little, I don't know if the right word is worthy of it, but, I am that person who feels that you can't just have someone come in and win your top title. Where's the story in that? Where's the build? Where's the chase? Where's the showcase? Where's that, working up that person and making them, obvious to deserve that title, as opposed to just being like, new guy, new title, who's this, kind of thing. So, with myself, I was a little disappointed that Cody Ibushi did go through, especially, and even then, he's like one of my favorites. I mean, it's hard pressed to find someone I don't like on the New Japan roster, but to be honest, then thinking and comparing the information I just said about Kenta, it made more sense to have him there. Although I would have personally preferred to see Kenta in the final before Coda and maybe not take the final, but at least have gotten there to show that, yes, I deserve to be here, kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, it was bittersweet, I guess, because we got a great match to get us there. We had great matches between Zack and Tangaloa, great match between Yujiro and Shingo, surprisingly, for what it was. It was surprising to see Yujiro take it to him, especially like the dive right off the bat and a lot of the brawling on the ringside and just really kind of controlling what he wanted to happen in the match. He knew he couldn't beat Shingo straight up, so his option was to just keep him out of the ring. And that's a great story for somebody like a Yujiro who's never won anything of value, to have a strategy like that where, you know what, maybe I can't beat you, but I'm going to beat you. I feel like I'm still really
I might not be able to beat you, but I can outsmart you into that beating.
Yeah. I don't know if it's me or you. I feel like I'm still getting a really choppy feed every so often with you. So to our viewers, appreciate if you're following along and if we're having any technical difficulties talking to each other.
We're sorry.
No, we're trying. So Ibushi coming out of the A block. We move on to the next show, B block final night. We had another kind of showcase of the Young Lions here before we got right into the block. Oiwa and Fujita again teaming together. This time we're back to another kind of rematch of them against Bushiromu. Didn't take a ton of notes because it was very typical of what we've been seeing of the Young Lions tag matches and stuff. But the big thing I picked up on off the bat was Bushi definitely looked like he was working through a technical mat wrestling exchange to start, which I don't think we've really got to see much of with them yet.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And then Hiromu came in and turned it around and decided that he wanted to work the chops and strikes. And oh boy, did he work those chops and strikes. He put a licking on those young boys' chests. I thought it was probably one of their longer and stronger showings for the Young Lions that we got, though. And I know I took the note another night here that as well, that I think they look really, really good as a tag team.
No, I agree. You're referring to Fujita and Oiwa, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. They've been looking a lot better. The chests are certainly getting a ripe beating. Both of those guys covered in bruises, speckled in little bruises from that. And I don't know if you noticed, but Fujita had a massive bruise pretty much in his armpit. I'm suspecting from those. Who knows? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Bushi certainly worked a more smooth technical match in comparison to Hiromu, who just came in screaming and hitting everything. What I did like, though, is there was one point where Oiwa finally got into the ring and he came in on a hot tag. And it was the first time I think I actually saw him like really fired up and excited for his match. And I felt that this was actually the best performance that he personally did since I've started seeing him perform. And he also did the Boston on Hiromu. But of course, Hiromu, I think that pissed him off because he seemed to be pretty mad after that point, and he ended up sinking that Boston in on himself, and not even just sitting down on the poor kid's butt, but he sat down on his shoulder blades. He sunk that thing in there. He wasn't getting out. That was the end of it. That was a great opener.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and I think both Bushi and Hiromu look like they're ready for some Super Junior. Best of Super Junior tournament coming up, so that'll be another fun tournament here. Not sure if we're going to be doing a lot of coverage on it. We'll talk about it and think about it, and we'll let our wonderful followers and
Hey, I always love to talk wrestling.
If we've got more wonderful New Japan content coming here on Love Wrestling. Night then, Chase Owens versus Yoshihashi.
Oh,
To,
but first we
under
have to talk about Jam. Jam
okay,
doing the max to max performance.
give it to me.
That was amazing.
I
I
watched.
didn't even know what half of them looked
I
like.
didn't take
Seeing them all
it.
come out, it was great.
Yeah, I didn't or Max the Max song because why not? We've been singing it all month long at the beginning of every opening, so
Real
great to see
Muscle
them
Live.
fighting with real swords.
Oh goodness, I love that song though, and I think both of us can, kind of what's the we both downloaded this song. Let's
Yeah,
both be honest here. We both have this song on our playlists. I listen to it when I work out now. It's a great song to fire you up when you're about to work out. I'm just saying.
I just listen to it while I'm driving. Get me hyped so that I can fly by everybody on the roads.
There you go. Okay, yes, now we can talk about
No,
Chase and
and the wonderful Chris Charlton producing and finding us who Max the Max really is and bringing
Thank
them
you,
to us in a
Chris.
live show. Okay, yes, Chase and Yoshihashi, two of your absolute favorites, I'm sure.
Yeah.
um, it was a fun match. It wasn't anything like top tier G1, anything like that. It was a fun singles match between them. It would make a fun kind of feud in the future, a feud closing match down the line somewhere. One thing I did take note of is Chase starting to dip a little bit back into the dirty tricks. Not a lot, but it almost felt like he was just testing and trying to take advantage of poor Yuya Sakamoto in this match.
Mhm.
When
Good.
he had Yoshi in like the headlock there and then starts telling Yuya that Yoshihashi's grabbing his hair so that Sakamoto goes to try and take a look at it and he's meanwhile doing something else up front out of the ref's view. That was fun. End of the match, you got a the one big spot that I took note of was the C trigger counter into the Karma setup. But then instead of actually hitting the Karma, Yoshihashi dropped it onto his knee as like a neck breaker kind of thing. Not sure if that was intentional. It looked pretty damn cool, but it looked like he was trying for the Karma and just kind of slipped his grip or something.
I mean, my opinion on Yoshihashi. I'm going to assume that it was a mess up. But he really does need to start introducing some new stuff. So, maybe it's
Yeah,
modified karma.
maybe.
Maybe he'll have a new name for it.
And I made mention of Ibushi's jumping knee from the A block final night. Chase's jumping knee looked 10 times better. That jumping knee
C trigger.
not even the C trigger, the one that he hit in the ropes as him and Yoshihashi were kind of
Oh
locked up.
yeah.
And he got a good 2 feet off the ground to get that knee right up in Yoshihashi's face, and that looked painful. That's the word I'm going to go with here because it did. Ultimately, Yoshihashi, though, ends up landing the Karma for the win, getting the extra 2 points, closing out what, not a fabulous tournament for either of them, but I think it really made a lot of people take note of Chase Owens, and I think Yoshihashi, definitely through the last year's and this year's G1, I think he's opened some eyes and made people see, maybe this is a guy, maybe he's not top tier caliber, but he's got what it takes. He deserves to be here.
Mhm. Well, he technically is a champion. He shares that championship with two other people, but he technically is a champion, and he's a champion for a reason. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Yoshihashi, when he comes to the G1, he really does show out. He works really, really hard to look a lot better. I just wish he would apply that same energy to the rest of the year.
Yeah.
If he would do that, I feel that he would probably have a lot better of a following, and he would probably be fighting for higher singles belts, like the Never Open Championship, like the U.S. title. But if I have to suffer him being the 3-man tag champion, I'll suffer it. But I always joke about not liking him, but like I just said, He did. He does always show out in this G1, and I got to appreciate all the hard work that he does do regularly. So
Yeah, for sure. Carl popping into saying he wishes that or would have loved to see Chase get more points than he did.
mhm.
And then admitting that he is a self-proclaimed Chase Owens mark. I think we're all Chase Owens marks after this tournament. Um,
Absolutely.
his
He I
tribute
don't
to
know what it was that he did, but he came in to this tournament looking the best I've ever seen him. And I thought he looked great before, but like he came in literally looking fantastic. He looked like he waxed himself. He got a tan, he lost some weight. He really came in to show himself off on this. And I think he did a fantastic job of solidifying himself in New Japan. And I personally think he should be fighting Tanahashi for the U.S. title. We'll discuss that after the next night.
you know what? Between this tournament and even before this tournament, I think we haven't really talked a lot about that through all of the talk that we've had about Chase Owens and his performance here in the G1. The Wrestle
Mm-hmm.
Grand Slam match he had with GBH Toru Yano was kind of the first thing that really opened my eyes to Chase Owens and what he can do as a singles competitor. He came into that as the KOPW champion. I think we're all kind of looking away that held that King of Pro Wrestling trophy up until like the last show before we hit the G1, up until the night the G1 rosters were announced, he was still the champion. And that
Mm-hmm.
was, I really, really enjoyed that match with Yano. I know I saw a lot of kind of hate for it online and stuff that people, it's still a Yano match. It's Chase Owens isn't that great. That was what really kind of put Chase Owens in my crosshairs of like somebody to pay attention to. And throughout this tournament, he's just improved himself night after night, match after match. He's put on some of the best or most enjoyable matches that I've seen in this tournament. And I'm excited to see, he said he's coming back to America. Maybe we're going to get him on Strong, maybe, Forbidden Door. He's got his Texas championship as well. I'm sure he's got to go back and uphold some kind of commitments to them now that he's spent the last month in Japan, that he's got to go back and defend his Texas title. But there's so many different things going on. You got Jay and Hikuleo and Chris Bay now, and even El Phantasmo hanging around in Impact. And on NJPW Strong, that there's lots of different places we could possibly see Chase Owens kind of pop up over the next month and a bit, while we wait for him to come back and follow up on whatever he's got coming up for him next in Japan.
100%, 100%. I actually hope that I do see him on Strong, kind of rejoining his Bullet Club brethren there. I kind of feel like those are actually more the Chase Owens Bullet Club people. So I feel like they'll probably end up tagging a lot better together over there,
I think
for sure.
Chase and El Phantasmo and Jay White for sure. I feel like those three just fit really well together, and I think Chris Bay fits that dynamic really well too. Hikuleo, I mean, he's just kind of there right now, but Hikuleo and like God kind of fits that same mold of the Bullet Club as well. That I prefer that side of the Bullet Club and that kind of shenanigans over the House of Torture shenanigans.
100%.
Speaking of, we have more Bullet Club in the next match that came up on the B Block final night. We got my notes are fabulous here because I forgot spaces, but it's Tama Tonga versus Goto with Jado, obviously massive heater in Tama Tonga's corner. This one, it didn't stand out by any means. It was a fun match. It was a really back and forth match. I felt like Goto and Tonga, they both got a lot of hits in. They brawled to the outside. They brawled inside. Jado still staying out of it, just being a coach in the corner, looking out for Tama, but not actually having a part to play in it. I didn't really kind of have anything stand out again until later in the match. Goto with the kick out from the Supreme Flow. I actually, when Tama Tonga hit that Supreme Flow, I actually thought, oh my God, this is going to be it. And then the kick out. And then shortly after that, he took a really hard kick from Goto. And then Goto was lining up for the next kick, and he just kind of flopped himself down. And I thought that was a nice little nod to, Jay White and Kenta are both really well known for, playing dead, playing like they're, knocked out or something like that. And Goto just kind of warming up, waiting for Tama to actually sit back up again. And then when he does, he catches the foot on the next kick and goes into a bunch of like reversals and strings of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the finish of this match, I really, really enjoyed the sequence they put together there with the counters and reversals through the gun stuns, the GTR, the Tongan twists, the suplexes, and then ending with the Bloody Sunday. I counted 3 different gun stun counters that Goto ended up coming up with, and then Goto winning this match with a roll-up. Again, like lots of roll-ups in this tournament, that people winning matches all the time, left, right, and center here without having to hit finishing moves, which I really don't feel like happens enough in wrestling in general. So I'm an appreciator of sudden finishes like that.
And I'm fairly certain, didn't Goto do that last year with Yano, where he gave him that surprise roll-up and pin where they had the shortest match in G1 history?
Yep.
Seems to be Goto's thing.
The one that they had, or that he landed here on Tama Tonga, though, I don't know if I heard Kevin or Chris correctly, but I thought they called it like the Goto ski.
I did not hear that. That would be interesting, though. Hopefully that catches on.
Yeah, I probably have to go back and rewatch the commentary and try and listen harder on it, but I'm pretty sure, I think it was Chris Charlton who said he caught him in the Goto ski. I'm like, the what now?
Just making up one.
Sure.
Making up moves.
Zack Sabre Jr. can name his moves like 15 different words that don't even go together. So why can't we just make up words for Goto?
Yeah, as I say, a lot of Zack Sabre Jr.'s moves seem to be like a Shakespearean novel. But then going into them is probably a Shakespearean novel in itself.
Yeah. What stood out for you from Goto and Tama here?
You know, there was actually a spot near the beginning where Tama was on his knees begging Goto for those kicks. And of course, in true Tama fashion, he's swearing his face off. And Jato's just, go, Tama, from the corner. I thought that was a great spot for Tama. It really kind of showcased for me his toughness. We always knew that Tama was a tough guy, but Goto is not a light kicker. He's another one of those guys who, despite his, diminutive size in comparison to some of the other guys, he'd probably kick your head off before you could even see it coming, kind of thing. So I felt that was a really great spot for Tama. And again, the Supreme Flow is something else I had noted. The height, the sheer height that he gets off that thing. And it's very, my viewing partner pointed out, very Superfly Jimmy Snuka, very perfect out there, very beautiful looking splash that he does. And again, I noted the redirections that you mentioned at the end of that match was just a perfect way to kind of end off of that match.
Yeah, just very smooth run through at the end there. The one kind of takeaway I've had from Tama in this tournament as a whole is just how much he actually excels as a singles wrestler. And I know God has a huge following. Tama and Tangaloa, they're brothers. They're like the Usos to me, that they're guys that I don't know that there's any way you really see them start separating and going their own way and actually trying to branch out as single stars. This tournament, if nothing else, showed me that Tama Tonga has everything it would take to be a single star if given the opportunity to run with it. So I don't know how we get there. I don't know if we get there. I don't know if to see Tama go on a long run for a year. Remember,
I feel like the U.S. title would probably be a really good thing for him to go after, and a more obvious thing, just because you don't, well, I personally don't want to see him going after the Never Openweight Championship, because that's just going to cause more issues that Bullet Club doesn't need right now, with obviously House of Torture on one side and a looming Bullet Club split happening in the rest of them. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I feel like Tama could definitely be a star in his own right. And even Tangaloa has been, making quite the name for himself in this tournament. Maybe not quite as loud of a name as Tama has, but both of them have been very, very impressive in this G1, and I 100% agree. Tama could probably be going for a singles title in the next little while if given the opportunity to do so.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
are you back?
I'm back.
I don't know what's happening here. Technical difficulties, live streaming, you know how it goes.
Yay,
I
technology.
lost you a little bit there. I lost you a little bit there in talking about Tonga kind of coming into his own, but maybe not to the same level as Tama. But I mean, Tongaloa has definitely had some fantastic matches as well. I just feel like the caliber of the competition that Tama Tonga has been able to hang with, and putting on stories in, you know, places that I don't know that there necessarily was a story to start with, like the opening match with Tama Tonga and Sonata, where you myself and Matt all talked about it, that stood out to me as kind of my highlight from the first night of B Block, was just how great of a story Sonata and Tama Tonga told together. So I really appreciated that, but US title, maybe, the never title if they ever bring it back to Japan again, anything along those lines. I think Tama is very much deserving of a singles push if it's ever something that he actually wants to do.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Anything else there, or we're jumping into the next one?
That was actually all I had on that one.
Okay. Tanahashi versus Taichi. I'll let you take the lead on that one because I feel like I've kind of been leading the show to this point. So give me what you got for the Ace versus the Holy Emperor.
No, like I mentioned earlier, I felt that the last 3 nights were great matches. I didn't call any of predict any of the match winners at all in any of them, but I felt that the shows were amazing. But this one kind of confused me a little bit because I kind of felt, first of all, that these were the 2 most physically broken people in the tournament in this particular block, in Taichi and Tanahashi. Tanahashi constantly struggling with his knees, and then Taichi, of course, struggling with that rib injury. Pants early for Taichi, like within the first few minutes, he was pantsing himself, trying to hit just move after move after move on Tana. And it was weird for me to see Tana suddenly targeting those ribs. That's definitely, again, more of something that you see with the heel guys. I don't know if they were trying to portray Taichi as a little bit more of a face. He did certainly have quite the following going into the G1 tournament. But yeah, I felt like it was almost like a desperation move from Tanahashi, because Tanahashi has been doing pretty decently throughout the tournament. I mean, obviously he's not winning it, but he still has a high point count. I was trying to figure out if it was maybe desperation or intention throughout the entire match. But it was like every time that Taichi seemed to get just a little bit ahead, like 1 step ahead of him, Tanahashi would pull him back and take 2 steps ahead of him. It was almost like Tanahashi just constantly had Taichi's number throughout that entire match, which came as a complete shock to me when Taichi ends up going down into a sumo stance and actually managing to pull off a win against Tanahashi. And the disappointment that Tanahashi was showing outside of the ring after there was just, it told a really good story for me. I personally thought that I'd like to see them get into another brawl, like another fight, Tanahashi and Taichi, but I don't know if I want to see them as in a title kind of thing, a tag title or a single title. My biggest concern right now is Taichi's ribs, especially going into the World Tag League in the beginning of November there. But yeah, this match I felt was actually a really great match, really great story told within this match. But again, 2 of the most broken guys in the tournament, I wasn't entirely sure that that they would be able to pull off a full match there. Uh-oh, I'm all alone. Hi, everyone. While we wait for Cody to kind of pop back in here, hopefully he does. I guess I'm just going to kind of move on to the next match, which was personally. Oh, we're not. We're back.
I'm taking a walk to sit right beside my router and take me out of the office, and we're going to have a conversation out here because apparently my Wi-Fi today just doesn't want to work.
Excellent. And you're clear? Okay, perfect. What were your opinions on Taichi and Tanahashi?
Yeah, a lot of what you said too, just Taichi right off the bat. You said minutes. I think it was seconds. I think it was within the first 20-30 seconds of the match that he was pantsing himself. He came right off the bat, hit that dangerous suplex. I think immediately went for the pin. Managed to, or like Tana managed to kick out of it and keep going. But then Taichi, right after that kick out, almost, he was ripping those pants off and going for the Black Mephisto already. And then I think Tana was just so caught off guard that he didn't know what else to do except just take a shot at those ribs to kind of, prolong his life in this match. It was a really, really surprising jump out of the gate. But then it was, once Tana had went for the ribs, Taichi just had a sense of urgency to him in this match that he knew his ribs couldn't hold up for an extended period. So he had to just try and get it over as quick as he possibly could. Because he didn't really hit many moves in this match. He was hitting kicks, a few little strikes, but not really. And then other than that, it was just he kept going for the dangerous suplex and he kept going for Black Mephisto. And that was it. That was Taichi's entire offense in this match. And then Tana, the kicks that Tana was giving looked really weak. Really, really weak. Those stomps when Taichi was on the ground. And Tana almost looked like he was caressing him with the bottom of his boot a couple different times. The one kind of move that Tana hit or used that did make me kind of, okay, is this a real injury or is he selling? Was when Tana had him in that, I think it was the clover leaf. And Taichi's reaching for the ropes and he's reaching his arm. And as he's stretching, you see he can't, like, he barely touches the rope and then he has to like pull back because his ribs are so sore and take a break and then like crawl a little bit closer so he doesn't have to exert himself quite as much. I don't know if this is a real injury for Taichi or if it was just really, really good selling throughout the tournament on his part, but we noted it way back, second or third match of the tournament. We started noticing and noting that it looked like there was something. We thought, or I thought anyhow, it was a back thing. Maybe it was a rib thing then. Maybe it was nothing, and he's just, that great at telling the story that he made us all believe there was a rib thing all this time. I don't know. But in this match, the way he sold it made me really believe that it's something that is wrong with him. And it gave me a lot of respect and a ton of respect for him as a whole, whether it's a work, whether it's an injury, either him gritting out through it the entire time through this tournament to not have to pull out, or him just selling us for 7 out of 9 matches on him having a legitimate injury. Whichever way you look at it, the man deserves to be appreciated for what he gave us in this tournament. And yeah, like I say, if it wasn't prefaced around a real injury, like maybe it was a combination of both. Maybe there was a slight injury and he played it up for the storytelling of it. Maybe it's not as bad as it is, but it's something. It's the most convincing selling I've ever seen in my wrestling watching life, I think. Took a half a dozen attempts to try and land a dangerous suplex, kept attempting to the Black Mephisto, kept getting hit in the ribs every single time, and then ends up having to get the Gato clutch to roll him up for the win in what looked like the most painful looking Gato clutch I've ever seen. He had him rolled and he's trying to like lean back to like keep the pressure on the shoulders, and you just see him like he crumpled forward as the 3 count was counted. I think Taichi is a gift. I think the Holy Emperor gimmick is wonderful. I love Miho Abe. Give this man a belt, okay? Give this man a singles title.
I agree. Taichi was like, I remember when I first started watching, he was not my favorite, and Miho Abe was very much so a special show kind of kind of deal. But like as I've watched him throughout the years, like yourself, I've certainly gained a huge respect for him and how hard he has been working. You're absolutely right. I myself am trying to figure out if it's a work or a sell. Partially because I noticed the lower back injury in that was it when they went after the 3-man
Yeah.
they had that match with Chaos where they were teaming with Doki and he took that one move. I don't even remember what it was, but it took him a very long time to get off the canvas after that, and everyone was kind of gathered around him and concerned. I'm in the same boat. I don't really know if it's a work, if it's a sell.
Yeah.
I don't
As Astrid
know.
says, it's interesting when they keep you wondering if it's selling or real. I
Mhm.
mean,
That's some quality work right there, is what that is.
we left A Block night one before news broke of Naito's injury and the extent of it. We both talked after A Block night one that we're like, was it a real injury or is Naito selling? Because Naito is just another one that's so fantastic at the sell. You don't know
Mhm.
when he's actually hurt because you've seen him sell fake injuries so well in the past.
Exactly, exactly. And I was definitely hoping that that one was a was a sell.
Yeah.
Sadly not.
No, but another great match.
Mhm.
I don't recall exactly where Tana finished. I thought Tana only ended up with like 6 points or something in the tournament here.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Let me just double check
So
here. 8 points.
8. So yeah, I think they actually did mention now that I think about it. They said he ended up finishing 4 and 5. So
Mhm.
yeah, that makes sense. And then I think Taichi ended up at 8 as well
Um,
because I think he started at 6 and then this win put him on 8.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody ends up pretty close at the end of the day. You know, you don't really think about it as the tournament's kind of winding around, but they do end up keeping it pretty close despite guys going on long losing streaks and long winning streaks throughout. Um,
Mhm.
Next up, we've got Mel's absolute favorite against Mel's least favorite. We've got Evil with Dick Togo against Sonata. And I wish this match had ended when Evil wanted it to end. Evil right off the bat, they make their entrances, they get in the ring. Evil hops out of the ring, walks over to the timekeeper's table, grabs a microphone and says there's no point in wrestling this match, rings the bell for himself and starts walking back out of the arena. And I was like, okay, forfeit wins, Sonata should go over. But Sonata wanted to get his hands on his former tag team partner, catches him, throws him back in the ring, and then goes back and rings the bell to restart the match for himself. Which, I mean, if that's as easy as it is to restart or end a match, I think more people should just go and start ringing Abe-san's bell.
I
Oh,
mean,
wait.
get me a hammer and I will start touring.
I mean, Evil rings Abe-san's bell every match now, so doesn't that mean every match
Sometimes
ends?
twice.
Yeah. We keep talking about it. Evil has a playbook. He doesn't seem to want to stray from it at all. This was something a little bit unique to start the match, but then the match itself played out very much as an Evil match. When Sonata put both Togo and Evil in the Paradise Lock, I wish he would have just left Togo locked up for the rest of the match.
100%. Just tie him up in the Paradise Lock and leave him next to Kevin and Chris. They'll watch him.
Yeah, they don't have the keys, so
Exactly.
oh no, it was it was fun from Sonata's point of view there. I mean, the match itself is what you expect from Evil at this point. Poor Abe-san. That spot though,
Babylon.
that spot definitely it stood out to me because it was really off.
Mhm.
That Evil, he went to kind of grab Sonata to take him, but Sonata was a little bit too far away, so he like kind of walked himself into Evil's grasp to get slammed against the fence. And
Yeah. That one was one of their more awkward setups for sure.
yeah. Um, but I also took note of your comment that you made on the show last week about Sonata never hitting the Muda moonsault. So when he let Evil out of the skull end and decided to go up for the moonsault, I was like, oh, yeah, here we go.
you could probably hear me somehow through the forest going, "No! Get off of there!" It's
Yeah.
like Kojima's elbow drop. You hit it so infrequently. Why do you keep doing it?
Yeah.
There was actually one point where actually I believe Sonata almost didn't quite make it into the ring, and I kind of wrote down that that's how you do a near count out, Mr. Ibushi, sir. That's how you do it, in case you
Yeah.
needed the pointer again. um,
Yeah, they were back in the ring at about 15, I think, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I noted, Sonata, please do us a favor of removing the moonsault from your arsenal. I did enjoy the magic killer. I think it was a magic killer.
Yeah.
Back in or not the magic killer. Oh, I forget what the name of the other one is. Where the feet are not up; it's just the one leg. Back and forth with Marty, and of course with Togo. Marty Asadi, always getting involved in matches. At
I
least he knows
literally
how to
have a
count.
note here that Marty Asami really should just be a Bullet Club stooge at this point.
Just get him a House of Torture shirt.
Yeah. Because he's just completely incapable of doing anything to stop them.
No, yeah, I agree. Now, this match kind of went exactly as we expected it to, though. Bullet
Yeah.
Club shenanigans, copy paste.
Oh, well, the part that really got me with Asami on this one was the end. When he's in the middle of a count where Sonata probably should have won, and he gets pulled out of the ring and thrown down by Dick Togo, but doesn't eject Togo or DQ him or anything. And then when they're having the chair spot in the ring and Sonata drop kicks the chair into Togo's face, effectively taking him out of the match.
Mhm.
Marty Asami's more concerned about the down and out Togo than the two participants in the match. Like, what are you doing, Marty? Pay attention to the wrestlers in the match, not the guy who's been interfering in the match.
This is also the guy who Kevin also like so frequently informs us that he is the worst driver of the buses for the New Japan tours. So I mean, we got to find something Marty's at least good at.
We need to get Marty some glasses. They talk about referees having bad eyesight. I think Marty Asami leads that pack right into a wall.
100%. But let me tell you, between him and Kenta Sato, they the two of those guys take nearly as many bumps as the other guys in the ring.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yep.
I've ever seen a ref take so many bumps.
Yeah, no, it's wild the bumps that they have in the ref bumps in Japan for sure.
Mm-hmm. Just happy the ladies aren't doing that at ringside. My goodness, Miho would die.
Yep. Evil though finishes with the win. Ends up landing himself, I think, at 14 points. He finished at, or 12. 12. No, it should be 14. He should be finished at
14. Yeah.
Which ends up falling just shy of what it would have taken to get the win. So we can be very thankful for the match last week where he took that L and ended up being in a position where he couldn't win.
Goodness.
And then the final. And what a final it was. This match exhausted me. Mm-hmm. Because Jeff Cobb and Kazuchika Okada, they put on a hell of a main event last month at Wrestle Grand Slam. Mm-hmm. They come back now. They've wrestled all through the G1, almost flawless for both of them. Come back for this match. And they come out flying early. Mm-hmm. Just right off the gate, just running and like very, very fast paced to start. But then they slowed it down and got a lot more into the power game between them. I had the strong sequence by on the outside with the Okada tope caught by Cobb into the deadlift. Mm-hmm. Up for the suplex, Okada drops down into a DDT, but Cobb reverses that into a Northern Lights. Like that whole sequence starting with Okada. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've ever seen Okada hit a tope before or attempt.
Yeah, the tope con hilo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him do that either. I've seen him go over the top, but I've never seen him go through. So yeah, that was a little crazy. No, I agree with you. It was a very good, strong start. Okada reversing most of what Cobb was throwing at him. There was that double pile driver with the pickup from Cobb. Oh, where he does a pile
The
driver,
double,
stands
well,
back up,
this
does it
tombstone,
again.
the
Oh yeah, sorry,
tombstone.
tombstone. Yeah,
Oh,
that. I was like, how is his neck still alive? Especially with like Okada, he's not exactly a small guy.
but
But then again, neither is Cobb.
there was, so right before that,
Mhm.
you got the Rainmaker wide shot, and then
Mhm.
Cobb reversed that Rainmaker into the spin cycle
Mhm.
right around the 15-minute call. I have it marked as, and that was just really, really smooth as well. How like he literally just catches and spins him up right down into the cycle. And then very shortly after that, reversed another Rainmaker into a German suplex. And then we got the Tour of the Islands was reversed by Okada into an attempted tombstone, but Cobb shifted his weight to land himself in the tombstone position to hit that double tombstone on Okada. And it was, for two guys who have, this is now their third marquee match of 2021.
Mhm.
They really went all out on like anything you can do. I already know it. And
Mhm.
just reversal after reversal after reversal. Like, not just I'm reversing the moves you're hitting, I'm reversing the moves you're using to reverse my moves that I'm using to reverse you. Like, it
No, we've
was
been saying this
wild.
phrase a lot, but it's like that anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah. No, and it was just wild that they like reversals of reversals of reversals all the way through this match. Like, nobody could hit a move because they just kept reversing everything each other through at each other. And when you've got two guys who have been wrestling like this consistently for a year, um, this is what you expect of a marquee top tier match like this between guys that should know everybody's moves in the ring. Nothing should surprise them anymore. That you have to keep pulling new things out of the bag to surprise your opponent because your regular tricks aren't going to do it anymore.
100%. And
Um,
I have
oh, go
that
ahead.
top rope reversal from the suplex into the DDT from Okada. That I've never seen that done before, and it took me a few minutes to figure out who got hurt in that, who took the move, who gave it. But yeah, that one was the last crazy move that I had noted from this match.
That was actually a top rope tour of the islands he was going for.
Oh, okay.
He had him in kind of the power slam position going for the top rope
Oh,
tour,
okay.
and Okada reversed it into the DDT and caught him
Mhm.
down head first. And that was the spot that really kind of turned the momentum for Okada. That was
Mhm.
kind of the start of the end.
Mhm.
um you had a couple different things back and forth around that, just like a lot of Rainmaker reversals and stuff, and
Mhm.
tour reversals, and the money clip trying to go in. Okada still, like, he pulled it out for that one match where he flattened out the money clip. I was expecting
Mhm.
that to come into play and possibly end up being how he finished Cobb here, but he
Mhm.
put the money clip in a standing position once, which was weird, and then he um put it in the standing position a second time, adjusted it to a tombstone, and then put it in on the seated position. But he didn't try to rely on the money clip at all either, despite the fact that Jeff reversed probably a good 10 to 12 Rainmaker attempts throughout the match. Okada
Mhm.
still never fell back into trying to go to the money clip as something else when the Rainmaker wasn't working for him. Um,
I mean,
and
Jeff Cobb
Cobb,
also doesn't have much of a neck, so I don't know how effective the money clip would be on
yeah,
him, but
fair. I mean, we did see it last week with the Evil match where
Mhm.
Togo had him choked out with a garrote wire and didn't really actually choke him out because the neck was too bulky.
Exactly. It's
Um,
like Ishii, no neck.
right before we got to the spot with the top rope tour into the DDT by Okada, though, we had Jeff Cobb hit Okada with that drop kick while Okada was sitting on the top rope. We've seen
Mhm.
Okada do that all the time. Okada hits a wicked drop kick. Cobb, when
Mhm.
he did that, though, Okada, his legs
Cobb.
tied up in the top rope really, really awkwardly. And I don't think that was intended because Cobb never took and
No.
did anything with it. Red Shoes just got out there and immediately like untied Okada, and Okada just climbed himself
Mhm.
back to the top again.
Mhm.
That was a painful looking way that he got himself tangled up in those ropes.
Yeah, his ankle did not look okay in that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've actually heard Okada make a noise quite the noise he was making as he was tied up in that. So I think
Yeah.
you're right on that. I don't think that was an intentional
Yeah,
thing.
he looked like he was in a lot of pain when he was like
Hmm.
laying down in that tree of woe like position. And he was screaming
Hmm.
like
And like
that. That
the
looked
ankle would be
bad.
fully extended and almost hyperextended in the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure. And Red Shoes was right on top of that and did what he needed to do to get
Hmm.
Okada free of that. I did note down the entire finishing sequence though.
Let's have it.
Rainmaker reversed, German suplex blocked, tombstone blocked. Cobb gets Okada up to a shifting clutch, a shifting clutch tour of the islands, but it's blocked to a drop kick, and then Okada with the landslide tombstone and the Rainmaker for the win. So literally, what did I just list
Wrestling.
out? Like 6 reversals in a row there to get to a drop kick. Ultimately, 6 moves reversed to land a drop kick. That was
Oh, New
this
Japan.
match in a nutshell.
And what a match. Like I said, that was not obviously what I wanted. I definitely wanted Cobb to be taking his block, but after that match, I was like, I can deal with the results. We had a great match. We had 3 great shows. We still have one more to talk about after this. That was, how do you get any better?
Yeah. And my note at the end of the match for this one, Okada versus Ibushi, it feels very underwhelming coming out of this tournament. I
Mhm.
know it's your top 2 guys and it will be a great match.
Mhm.
And it was a great match for what it was. But
Mhm.
it felt like this should have been a year to have other guys go over. I don't think you needed Ibushi going
Mhm.
to a 4th straight. I don't think you needed Okada coming back after a year, only a year off, really, since the last time he was
Mhm.
extremely dominant. Like he was in the end of the block finals with Will Ospreay last year. Okada's always there in the conversation. And
Mhm.
I saw a conversation about it earlier in the tournament. I think we might have discussed it a little bit with Matt as well about, you know, with Naito's injury, with, the way the world's still kind of tied up and everything. Do you go back to Okada and as winning the block? And I didn't think it should have been that way because, they built
Mhm.
Cobb up to be so dangerous and so powerful. And I think this could have been a star making tournament for Jeff Cobb. I think this could have been a star making tournament for Zack Sabre Jr. Not to say they're not stars already, but winning the G1 elevates you to a new level. And to give that elevation to the same guy 4 years in a row in Ibushi, and then also, Okada going G129, he was undefeated up until like the 8 or 10 point mark. Last year, he was undefeated for a long stretch in it.
Mhm.
It just feels like they're using the G1 just to really push their top guys and not actually using it as a vehicle to, find the next competitor for the title as much as just putting the same guys back in the title picture after they've lost it or faded out of it for a little bit.
Mhm. No, I 100% agree. I definitely felt that this was like, the golden star in Kota Ibushi against the golden child in Okada, kind of being showcased to us. And I definitely felt the exact same way. I definitely felt that, Cobb and Zack Sabre Jr. and even Kenta, they had a bit of a better tournament than these guys, and they could have definitely been given something a little bit better. That being said, I go back to that kind of, what are they trying to do with the marketing part of this, where um, they might be, I felt, maybe trying to show off the homegrown guys while still showcasing people like Zack Sabre Jr., like Jeff Cobb, like Chase Owens in the G1 as a means to show any new American fans maybe that thing. But for me, it doesn't justify it enough. I definitely felt that there was maybe more deserving people to have been in those top spots.
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, this is what we got. And like you said, it ended up being a heck of a match. But I definitely, when I kind of knew what was going on, it was kind of like, hmm, I feel about as underwhelmed as I did, seeing a John Cena match back in the day or a Roman Reigns match a few years ago. It's just like, oh, it's you again. Yeah,
Lol.
okay.
Lol, Okada wins.
Yeah, like I kind of went in with that kind of mentality. But again, the match itself, like in the last night and the final itself, I can't complain about it. It was a good match.
Yeah.
Maybe not the participants I necessarily wanted to see, but they certainly made the best of it for me.
Yeah. Well, we can jump into that now. The final night of the tournament.
Mhm.
That we had a whole bunch of showcase matches. The only match of ultimate importance was that final match, but we'll give a brief rundown of what we did see in the undercard. Starting with another Young Lion showcase, we got another kind of rematch of Oiwa and Fujita against El Desperado and Kanemaru. At this point, I didn't really take any specific notes of this Young Lion showcase other than that it was another solid exhibition. And that, Oiwa and Fujita definitely look like someone that if they put them together in the World Tag League, I wouldn't necessarily be disappointed. I wouldn't expect them to win any matches. They'd be a guaranteed win for everybody else in the tournament. But I think it would be a great learning experience for them since they've already, been wrestling a lot of the junior teams to maybe put them up against some of the actual like heavyweight teams and just have them get their licks in and stuff like that. But at the same time, we might see them. I know there's other Young Lions. There's at least the third one that we saw before the G1 started that's kind of sitting waiting for his opportunity to get into things. That maybe we're just going to get a few more singles showcases. But the tag matches that we've got between these two have been really, really fun. And I think they show a lot of chemistry with each other as a team, just as well as they do as opponents.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree on your opinions on them. I actually don't have this match written down. I don't actually think I saw it. I must not have logged on at the right time for that one.
Yeah, it was on
But
the undercard again, and then there was the wait until the actual show start time. It went kind of the same as the one pre-gem project the night before.
Oh, dang. I wish I saw that one. I like Desperado and Kanemaru. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I actually think it would be a really smart idea to have the Lions team as a junior team or as a team in the World Tag League. It would give them a ton of experience. And again, it would be the easy 2 points for everybody, but it would be almost invaluable experience for them to wrestle in something like that. So yeah, I think that would be great.
I know in the past, New Japan likes to mix it up and put like a Young Lion with a veteran, like a Makabe or a Hanma or a Tiger Mask or anything like that. But in this case, I think since they've had these two tagging together anyhow, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to just have them in the World Tag League and, getting that experience, that high-level experience with the big names.
Especially if we don't know if Naito will be back in time for World Tag League or not.
Yeah. So then the start of the main show, once we kind of took a break and got back to the top of the hour, was the United Empire of Jeff Cobb and Great-O-Khan against Toru Yano and Yuji Nagata. This one I felt really just seemed like an exhibition to remind us how good Cobb and Great-O-Khan were as a team pre-G1. It was very much a very United Empire heavy match. A lot of domination by them throughout on both Nagata and Toru Yano. I did specifically make sure to note that I really enjoyed Nagata faking out Great-O-Khan with the Mongolian chops, where he kind of wound up for them and then kicked him in the gut, which was a fun little spot from Blue Justice. There were a couple different stories coming out of this. The big one being obviously that Toru Yano ends up upsetting by getting the roll up on Great-O-Khan for the win. Again, didn't see what happened pre-roll up, but it worked. He got the 3. Yeah, no, it was kind of chaos outside.
I didn't see anything either.
It was chaos. I was watching Cobb and Nagata brawling outside. I don't know what happened with Yano. He got the win, though. But Kevin was also talking about potentially Great-O-Khan challenging for the KOPW trophy. And the way they run that trophy tournament, it could be really interesting. I have to go deal with that. I'm going to let you give some thoughts on this while I go figure out what's happening with my dog.
Sounds good. Well, I for this match, I definitely felt it was a really really good, like you said, exhibition match for Cobb and O'Khan. A little disappointed to see Cobb coming off of the main event the night before and opening the show. I definitely felt that this match could have been maybe the second match or even the third one before intermission in comparison to the other matches. Um, I love Yuji Nagata. He's always been one of the guys that I've loved in New Japan just because of how he puts that 110% effort into every match he's doing, regardless if it's an opener or a main event. I was really surprised, given how Yano's luck has been going with his intros, that Cobb and Okan did allow his intro to go through, so that we got everything: the chair, the towel, the Mona Lisa t-shirt. We got it all. Um, Something worth I noted with Okan is that he actually got, I think, new trunks. And I've always been a fan of Okan's gear. He has this really nice habit of either dressing like a stereotypical wrestler with the black trunks and very little kind of markings on it, but then he also has that crazy Mongolian warlord pants and then the shirt and the hats and everything. So I really enjoy when I see new gear on the guys. I definitely felt that Yano got worked over in this one, which, good for me anyway. And with Nagata, I mean, he's still got it. His kicks are great. His energy is amazing. For me, it was a bit of a sudden ending. Not what I expected at all. But yeah, for me, this was a good exhibition match, reminding, as you mentioned, Cobb and Okan. Still very dominant, but like I said, I would have liked to see this match a little further up in the card as opposed to an opener, especially when you're coming off as someone whose only defeat was the night before to Okada. Welcome back.
I have a baby in my arm. Yeah, no, that's...
Mine are snoring next to me. I'm surprised it's not registering.
I threw the big one outside, and I have this one in my arms right now. And, not to rush us too much, but I think we might need to kind of breeze through the tag matches here. So,
of course, I don't have too many notes on all of these guys. I don't know if you were able to catch the House of Torture versus Chaos match.
yep.
Perfect.
That one, I mean, just where I was kind of touching on with the GOK and Yano quickly before we jump to that. The way the King of Pro Wrestling, like the KOPW trophy, plays out with the fans voting on match type, and Kevin kind of teased a little bit, possibly having like an amateur showcase match between Yano and Great Okan. Was something that really, really kind of piqued my interest. I don't know what Yano would come up with as his option of match, but what they've done with that tournament and giving us some unique stipulations, and the story Okan and Yano played in their match in the tournament was really, really fun. So I'd love to see what they could do with a unique stipulation and kind of keep that feud going.
I'm curious to see what they're going to add to Yano's bag of kinks.
But yeah, the House of Torture and Chaos match, for what I can remember of it, I don't think this match ever really got like a proper tag team setup at all throughout the entire match. It was literal like brawl right from the get-go. It was everybody in a corner, and it ultimately was a 4-on-3 brawl too, because you had Dick Togo in the corner of Bullet Club that I don't remember who the ref was for this match, but they just couldn't keep it all under wraps, and nobody was in the corner.
Sato.
Was it
Kenta
Sato? They couldn't keep it under wraps. They had no idea who was the legal man at any time. I don't think there was legal man just long enough to make a tag, and then everybody was brawling again. And so it really was a 4-on-3, because Dick Togo, he wasn't in the match, but he might as well have been, because he was a part of everything happening at ringside.
I think it was even mentioned on commentary by Kevin that a lot of the fans had mentioned that Togo, they found his performance when he was going for the 3-man Never Open Championships, that his performance was still very, very good, very on point, and he could keep up with the young guys just as well as the young guys could keep up with him.
it wasn't a 3-man. They were talking about him and Gato in one of the tag tournaments last year. I don't know if it was the
Oh,
junior tag tournament or the World Tag League last year, but he was
yeah.
mentioning
Because
him and
for me,
Gato.
it was the 3-man tag that I noticed him.
Yeah, no,
But,
they were saying when him and Gato were teaming in one of the tag tournaments that
yeah.
they really
That was
let
the
him
last
know.
time we saw Gato, actually.
Yeah,
I believe so. We haven't seen Gato since.
was that the junior tag league? Is that the one where
Yeah.
Robbie Eagles was teamed with Tiger Mask?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that tournament then.
Yeah. Something I also liked in this match was the show coming out with the chaos towel,
Yeah,
kind of being
and
like
besmirching the
baiting
towel.
the bulls, so to speak, or baiting the pit bull in this case. Um, he ended up I believe he ended up using the towel to choke um, Ishii. They I was actually very surprised with House of Torture on this one. This combination of Show Yujiro and Evil, I felt actually worked scarily well together, which is a little concerning because we don't want any more Bullet Club shenanigans. And if they're working well together, that means we're going to get an overabundance of Bullet Club shenanigans. There was I wrote absolutely savage spot on the apron with Yujiro and Evil and his chops on show in the throat with Ishii. And again, Ishii right back to the throat chop. He was just catching show as flush right across the throat. No mercy. None at
Yeah.
all. But yeah, again, Bullet Club shenanigans ends with Bullet Club wins.
Um, yeah, I mean it is what it is. We don't expect anything else from Bullet Club at this point, but I do feel like
Nope.
this is probably leading us that we're going to see this match again in the future with the titles on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Next up we had more Bullet Club, but the other half of Bullet Club. God with Kenta and Chase Owens taking on Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, Hanma, and Tanahashi. The only real notes I took from this one was the finish, basically. Chase with a really nasty looking package pile driver to Hanma, especially considering Hanma's neck injury history. That was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main story out of this was the post match with Kenta and Chase both kind of reaching for the U.S. title at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and then them having a little bit of a spat, and ultimately Chase saying, "Okay, I'm going back to the U.S. for a while. Anyhow, you have your match, and then I'll come and check in when I'm back." And then they
Yeah.
too sweet and go their separate directions.
I obviously think that Chase deserves the shot first. He does have that win over Tanahashi, but as I mentioned earlier, I definitely feel that if Kenta wants to kind of earn his way to that heavyweight title, I would like to see him hold the Never Openweight Championship or the U.S. title. To prevent confliction, obviously, I think I'd rather see him go after the U.S. title. But yeah, you're absolutely right with this match with the pile driver on Hamna. I thought the same thing. I kind of did the scream at the TV, "Don't break the Hamna. We just got him back." And bless his heart, he works so hard, that Hamna. He comes out just like Yuji Nagata, just like Kojima. He comes out at 110%, even though you can tell he's obviously not at 100%. I don't even think he's functioning at 70 at this point. Bless his heart. But yeah, this match I didn't have a lot written down. The only thing that I did really have written down that I wanted to point out is just Chase is a very smart wrestler, very very intelligent in-ring technician. I would almost say that he's quickly becoming one of my favorites, and I would say almost my top 5 favorites in what he's able to put together in that ring. I
Yeah.
definitely think that he deserves that US title shot before, but again, if he's going back to the US and Tana isn't, it makes sense to have Kenta win it there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was basically it for me. I think on that match is, it's nice seeing, the Maccabees, the Hanmas, even like Nagata and the older guys getting back.
Tenzan Kojima.
Tens on Kojima, yeah, like the guys that have been off for a little while. Nice seeing them get back out and get a little bit of in-ring time as well. Especially with the tag league coming, I'm sure a lot of them are going to be involved in that. Your Taguchi as well. I don't think anybody expected this kind of makeshift team with Tanahashi to defeat the Bullet Club team. Usually that's kind of why you have a Tiger Mask and a Makabe and a Hanma in the match. Is one of them is taking the loss. But it was still enjoyable.
Nice to see Makabe back, though. We hadn't seen him for a bit. And I agree.
Okay. Now, I'm going to pass to you to tell us what happens next.
What
because
happened next
I know
is
you had a reaction
the
to
hell out. The next thing that happened, we had the intermission, obviously, and then Zack Sabre Jr.'s music hit, and everyone was confused because he wasn't supposed to be there. Seeing him come out in those baggy shorts and everything, I wasn't convinced that he was ready to wrestle, but I was kinda. Like, I was like, the shoes look like he could. The outfit, I don't know what's going on. When Shibata's music happened, though, I can't even tell you. I erupted, feet on my couch, standing up like, oh my God, he's back. Who's watching LA? Who cares? He's back. I was so happy. This ended up being a 5-minute, I believe, exhibition match.
5-minute UWF rules exhibition match.
No strikes I saw thrown. It was just no bullshit. It was just a straight out great technical match showing Zack Sabre Jr. and Shibata both being the technical geniuses that they are and not actually being able to submit the other in that 5 minutes. It was amazing. And for myself, I haven't seen full matches of Shibata's past. I've only seen clips of it. But let me tell you, this is comparable. It looks like he hasn't missed a step in the last couple years. I am so excited to see him back, and I really hope to see him again sometime soon. And I hope when we see him again, he doesn't get broken.
So, notes I took during this match. Could this be a trial run for Shibata to see how he feels back in the ring again? UWF rules, meaning it's pure showcase and warm up, that there wasn't even any pinfalls or anything in it. No strikes, no pinfalls. It was just technical submission, mat wrestling, almost Olympic style wrestling at the end of the day. The way they kind of exchanged holds, and especially at the end as they were trying to, get one another in a position as they knew the time was expiring and running it to the 5-minute draw, and then Zach trying to say 5 more minutes, 5 more. And then even Shibata Shibata trying to point and say, yeah, like, let's go. And then the groundbreaking announcement that Shibata made on the mic, and, thanks again to Chris Charlton for his translation, saying next time he's in that ring, it will be in a match. And there will be a next time.
Thank goodness.
Where do you even go with this? I mean, we were just given a wonderful technical showcase between these fantastic submission wrestlers. We have a 2-year-long story brewing of Kenta and Katsuyori Shibata. We now have Will Ospreay in North America attacking Shibata's integrity and attacking the LA Dojo. You have TJP just turned on the LA Dojo. All 4 of those are matches that could blow the roof off in terms of just technical masterpieces between those guys and Shibata. I want all of them and more. I think there's plenty of room for Shibata to start. You could put him on strong in some showcase matches. If you want to use him just as like a big showcase star, you keep him in Japan and start bringing these guys back to Japan and letting them, take their shots at him. Start with Kenta, start with Zach, the guys that are there. I mean, that Kenta story has so much brewing to it right now, with Kenta using Shibata's drop kick in almost every match. That, I thought that was coming 2 years ago when Kenta attacked Shibata. And now we're 2 years down the line before Shibata is actually here standing in a ring saying, I'm back. I haven't really seen any full matches of Shibata, but this 5-minute exposition tonight has me dreaming the world of what we can see in the next year if he's actually back full time.
I'm in the same boat. I haven't seen like full matches. I've just seen clips of him, and from what I understand, it's almost like he's like a bit more of a, I would say, a Zack Saber Jr. with a little bit more muscle. His strikes are as strong as Kenta's, whereas we know that Zack Saber Jr. may not have as strong of a strikes as someone like Kenta. He tends to be a little bit more of a string bean, kind of relies more heavily on his submission and technical prowess. But yeah, absolutely, you are absolutely right. I would love to see Shibata versus Kenta. That's been brewing for a while, and I also thought that when Shibata attacked Kenta and did his the drop kick to him last year, I thought that was his announcement that I'm back, and then nothing really ever came of it. So I definitely would love to see that kind of get kickstarted, and I think that it would be a good idea to start that with a bit of a feud with TJP, maybe when he gets back from Mexico with the CMLL tour that he's going to be doing. But yeah, I think that would be a great idea to start building up and having Shibata showcase against some of these people who he's kind of obviously set up for a feud.
Yeah, no, for sure. Also, just the fact that Shibata looks like he's in absolutely fantastic shape
Mm-hmm.
for a guy who hasn't
100%.
wrestled. Like all he does is stay in the gym and train these kids in the dojo
Mm-hmm.
and train his body. He looks ripped. He looks ready to
Mm-hmm.
go. He looks like somebody I would believe being in a title scene sooner rather than later if he's actually 100% ready to go.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. I actually think he's almost in better shape now than he was when he was wrestling full time.
Yeah. Yeah, very possible, very likely. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much of the next match, but if you want to give a quick rundown of the LIJ versus GBH match that happened.
Yeah, I ended up calling the Team Bread Club because I didn't know what else to call them.
I mean,
So obviously the
GBH Chaos,
combination of,
New Japan, I don't even know anymore what they all are so affiliated with. So,
we'll just go with Bread Club. They look like they probably would enjoy it. Which of course was Tenzon, Kojima Taguchi, and Master Wato against the four remaining members of Los Ingobernables, Bushi, Hiromo, and Sonata. For anyone, wanting to know, there were two Bushis in the crowd that night. The night before, there was one. I didn't see him until the end of the show, but there was one. um, but at that beginning, Hiromu really beacon off to Taguchi. Taguchi, we haven't seen for a while, beacon back off. The running spot that Taguchi does always amuses me because, of course, Taguchi, he shortcuts everything, makes everyone else work twice as hard as he does. It was hilarious. I thought that was great. Also, the making fun of the chops, the Mongolian chops, or sorry, the Korkan clubs, or
yeah,
Osaka mallets. I don't remember what they're called.
I think they're the Corking clubs.
Making fun of Tenzon. That was amazing. Master Wato looks like he's putting on a lot of muscle. You can tell he's been working out with Tanahashi quite a bit. He's looking really, really good. Bushi is Tope Suicida. I don't know what happens in Bushi's mind when he's doing something, but like no matter what I've seen him do with the Tope Suicida, he always hits it, and he always hits it safely, even when it really looks like he's not going to. There's been times where I swear he's gone into a full scorpion and like tapped the back of his head with his boot, but he still ends up standing up. So, I mean, he's doing something, right? And of course, I always have to shout out LIJ. I don't know of another team that is as fluid as they are, that can just run into the ring and do all their moves without even having to communicate to each other. They just know instinctively what each person is supposed to do. And I think that's why they're my number one tag team and faction in New Japan. Of course, LIJ picking up a win on that one. I don't think there was a doubt about that.
Yeah, no, it's again, once you see that list of guys in the ring, it's not really a surprise to, who's taking a pin. Who of those four would take a pinfall over anybody in LIJ? I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Wato over Bushi if you really wanted to shock people, but
And it's been done. I mean, Watto does have a win over Bushi.
Yeah. But not something I'd expect
But
to see
not in
very
this.
often.
Yeah. But not recently.
Yeah. But now we get to the real meat of the potatoes. Okada and Ibushi. Okada and Ibushi. Oh God, Okada and Ibushi. This match it had my neck in pain long before we got to the spot where anybody else's neck was taken out of commission.
This match was absolutely exhausting. If you're a wrestling fan, you like that fast pace, you like that combination of strikes and moves and technicality, man, this is the match for you. Even though the ending was somewhat of a cluster, we'll say. This match from start to pretty much almost finish, because again, as it ended, it wasn't necessarily the best, but from start to finish, it was just on the edge of your seat excitement. You pretty much biting your nails. What's going to happen next? I felt that the match itself started off very, very slow paced, and the guys kind of feeling each other out, but they picked it up very quickly with some of the reversal spots that they were doing. Um, I also, Okada, he just has the best drop kicks, the best flapjack. I've never seen anybody go as high up. I think Ibushi actually kind of gave him a little bit more, and he actually almost soared over top of Okada's head. I was worried he was going to let go of his leg on the way down, but the multiple money clips in this one was interesting because, as you had mentioned earlier, he hadn't really been relying on the money clip up until this point, and I think this was where we saw him really trying to use it as a means to break Ibushi down. And there was actually one point where I thought it was going to work, but of course, Ibushi just has that New Japan fighting spirit where he fires up. He fires up at a random spot, and when you know he fires up, you know he's going to take that win. There's just that one point where he's doing something where you just know. And there was actually one part of the match where it was actually going up into that final spot, where my viewing partner was like, "Ibushi's got this. Ibushi's winning this match," and I had to agree. I was like, at this point, they're winding it down. This is how Ibushi wins his matches. And then wrestling. That one little thing, that one little
Don't
hiccup
try this
that,
at home.
yeah, and this is why. I don't know if you want to be the one to say it or.
Well, I'm going to touch a little bit on what we talked a little bit backstage before going live, before we get to the final spot, because there were numerous spots. I watched this. I didn't get to watch this live, so I knew something happened, and I knew how this match ultimately ended, but I didn't know the spot that caused it. So I'm watching this match kind of on the edge of my seat, waiting for what came at the end. And we get early on a spot on the ramp where Okada hits Kota Ibushi with a DDT, and Ibushi ends up standing like on his head upright on the rampway where there's not a ton of padding, and it looked like a hard spot. Red Shoes comes out, and you see him like with his hand over his mask, like he's trying to like say something into like a microphone or like his headset or anything like that. I'm like, oh, was that it? And then nope, Kota gets up, he keeps going. A little later in the match, you have Okada hits Kota Ibushi with a tombstone, where I felt like Ibushi's head was a good 6 to 8 inches too far down the knees, and he hit hard. Like the same as with Hanma with the package pile driver that he took from Chase. It looked like that. And right after that tombstone, Okada goes immediately into the money clip, and Ibushi looks like he's out cold. He looks like a limp body there as he's in the money clip, just out of it. And I'm like, do they call it here? Do they call it as like a tap out because he's literally not moving? He looked like a limp body in Okada's arms in that money clip, and I'm like, he took that hard. But no, then he fights back and he gets out of it. And a little bit later on, Okada goes for like an over the hip kind of backbreaker, but he doesn't firm his back enough, or Ibushi just took it weird. but Ibushi just
Yeah.
kind of like went limp and slammed the back of his head into the mat. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
dude, like you're gonna break your head right away, Coda. Like, call this match off. And none of these were the spot. Like all of these stood out to me. Like they were all hard spots, all moves that were taken in ways that I don't think they're meant to be taken. And Coda just kept coming, kept coming. And the spot that ended up hitting and ending the match here was actually a spot that Coda did to himself. Of all the things, it wasn't even a move that Okada did to him. Kota Ibushi in the final stretch, as he's in that kind of home stretch down to the Komagoye, as his matches tend to go, goes up to the top rope for a Phoenix Splash. And Okada rolls out of the way of the Phoenix Splash, but Kota Ibushi is not prepared to brace himself. His arms are kind of up, but they're not firm. So as he hits, his arms are limp and his head slams right into the mat.
Mhm.
And it was a hard spot to watch. I thought concussion, I thought neck injury. By the
Mhm.
looks of the way they were helping out after they called this match off and immediately waived it and called for the, cannot continue the match, get the Young Lions in.
Mhm.
Everybody, Young Lions, doctors, Shingo Takagi had been on commentary and is standing at the corner of the ring there looking on, very, very distressed and concerned. Okada doesn't even want to celebrate the win because he's just worried about Ibushi's health. They're focusing on the shoulder though. Like of everything that could have went wrong, I was thinking head, neck, back, possibly even like forearm. It was the shoulders where they were really giving the most attention to. And like you had mentioned it in our pre-show talk, Mel, that you thought possibly he separated his shoulder on it, which is
Mhm.
possible. I think the way he slammed into the mat, I don't rule out that a concussion could very well have been there as well. I think there could be numerous things. As of when we're talking right now, there is no confirmed report of what the injury may be to Ibushi, but I would not be surprised if they come out and
Mhm.
release an announcement of a couple different things. I think Kota Ibushi might be out months, possibly even a year, possibly longer. Like that was probably one of the hardest spots I've seen since Hiromu's injury.
Hmm. As I'd mentioned to you before we started this was very reminiscent to me of the Brock Lesnar 450 splash at WrestleMania where he missed Kurt Angle and just face planted into the mat. As soon as Cody Ibushi hit, I thought he had knocked himself unconscious. Um, when I started seeing his like legs moving around when they were kind of looking in on him, and I kind of saw how he was holding his arm afterwards. With myself, I've dislocated my shoulder myself in a not the same manner, but in a similar direction. And just the way he was kind of holding his arm like that, that was exactly how I had to hold my arm to keep it from pulling out. You could see the striations on his shoulder, as I'd mentioned. He always has shoulder striations in the muscles. I mean, he's freakishly muscular. He's the number two Mr. Muscles in New Japan for me, but they looked um, more stretched. They just looked longer. He was obviously in so much pain, and the fact that they had to take down the bottom rope to actually get him out of the ring safely. Yeah, I agree. I even if the injury doesn't necessarily require at least a year off, I think it would be in Cody Ibushi's best interests to take some time off, um, just to fully recover. Just because, as I'd mentioned, the Kenta match was where I kind of really thought that Ibushi was just not ready to be back, and I don't want to say that this kind of drives that home, but maybe he needed the time off. I gotta say though, what a guy and what a tough guy Cody Ibushi is for after this match taking the time to bow to not only Okada, but to bow to the staff, to bow to the crowd. I felt it was a tremendous show of sportsmanship, which is not something that we always typically see is that kind of gesture of thank you and respect in professional wrestling. So for me, that was just a really nice kind of touch. I personally don't feel that that was how it was supposed to end.
Yeah.
I personally feel that they were probably going to give that to Ibushi, and that unfortunately, just
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah,
And
I
it
I
sucks. I
definitely
don't want to think that we're not going to see Ibushi for a while, but unfortunately, he needs the time.
I definitely think we were on a route that they were trying to crown Coda as the first ever three-time consecutive winner.
Mhm,
The first ever person in New Japan to three-peat on the G1. It really felt like he really is their golden star. He is their John Cena, their Rock, their Austin, their Hogan, whatever you want to compare it to. He's that guy. They're hitching their wagon to Ibushi because he's hitched his to theirs. He signed this
mhm,
big deal, this long-term deal that he's wrestling New Japan and only New Japan. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. This is the only place he wants to wrestle, and they're rewarding that loyalty and that
mhm,
dedication to their company by trying to give him everything that, four times consecutive in the final, possibly headed towards three times him winning it consecutively,
mhm.
letting him be the one. I think he was the first to unify the titles, right? Or the
Yes.
first champion with unified title, yeah.
Mhm,
um all of these different accomplishments that they're really, really pushing on him feels like he just is their rocket ship on the way to the moon right now. They're following him as far as he will take them.
mhm.
Um, which isn't necessarily terrible, but in this tournament specifically, and this year specifically, it almost felt like a Roman Reigns level of push where it's at the expense of other people.
I agree. I agree. And like as we mentioned, it did feel kind of like going into a John Cena Roman Reigns match where we
Yeah.
had the former Golden Child and the new Golden Child kind of going together, and that was how much enthusiasm I had about it. But this match,
Yeah.
that was
Like
not a John Cena Roman Reigns match.
they're the golden childs who can actually wrestle. They're
Hmm.
they're the ones, they're the star, the top, the head of the show, whatever you want to call it. Like, it felt to me very similar to when I saw Tanahashi and Okada for the first time a few years back.
Hmm. When Tana was
When
still very mobile.
when Tana was still very mobile, Tana could still go. That match went almost all the way to the 30-minute time limit.
Hmm.
Um, and those two tore the roof off the building. I feel like this one, I think Ibushi was probably getting into that stretch for his finish, but maybe he wasn't. This very much could have been a match that went 30 as well.
Hmm.
And I think the timestamp on it was only 23. I'm getting a run in here in the background. Hello. Would you like to be on stream too?
What are your opinions on the Kota Ibushi Okada match? That is a good reaction.
Yeah. Um, I was surprised we didn't get any kind of team announcements for World Tag League or anything, though. I thought that was something that might pop up at some point in the show, unless I jumped by it by mistake. But
It's possible that they were planning on it, but given how the night ended up ending, they may have,
yeah,
completely prioritized talking about Ibushi or the other things
yeah,
um, before that. I am certainly excited to see what they have going on for that, and again, as I mentioned, will Naito be ready for that? Will he be
yeah.
rumored to be ready for that? How extensive was his knee injury? We don't really know.
So we're sitting in a world right now. Okada is your briefcase holder. Ibushi hopefully is taking the time he needs to recover, and we probably won't see him for a while. But who
Hmm.
knows? With the injury not being out there yet, maybe it's not as bad as it looked. But Ibushi holds a win over Shingo. Zack
Hmm.
Sabre Jr. holds a win over Shingo. Yujiro Takahashi, some weird way, now holds a draw with Shingo. So that's three guys out of this tournament that now have a legitimate reason to have a rematch with Shingo leading up to Wrestle Grand Slam.
Hmm.
And Kazuchika Okada with the briefcase, his only loss in this tournament is to Tama Tonga. That we could actually, I talked about it earlier, that Tama Tonga, I want a singles push. We could very realistically see Tama Tonga get a briefcase match with Okada down the line leading
Hmm.
up to Wrestle Kingdom now. And
And that
what
was
a match
certainly
that would
implied
be.
in the backstage comments.
Yeah, what a match that would be, that Tama Tonga is somebody that we could see as the only person really with a legitimate reason to challenge for that briefcase between now and January.
I would not complain about that. That would be a match I would be hands down ready to see right now.
I mean, that match as it was a hell of a match. That Tama getting that
Hmm.
upset and that big win, I'm all in on another one of those matches with them to build some time and some story behind it, and the chaos Bullet Club feuds that we could see surrounding it as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. But I mean, all in all, it was a very enjoyable G1. Maybe it wasn't quite to the level or the standard that we've come to expect with some of the bigger names like your Ospreys and Jay White's missing from it. But I think they still put on a hell of a tournament with the names and the talents that they had there. The ending, these final 3 nights were a little bit rough to get through. Just the way that they ended and the permutations of who could have been in this final and who we ended up getting. I mean, ultimately, it was a fantastic match because all of the 6 men that were still alive going into these final nights were men that didn't matter which combination of the 6 you put in that final match, they all would have tore that house down. But they really did. They put the Golden Child and the Golden Star one-on-one, and it's a shame we didn't get a full finish out of that match and to see what they had planned for that go home in that match. Hopefully we get to see it again sometime soon. Hopefully Kota Ibushi's okay. Really want to see him back to 100% and doing what he does on the big stage at his top level performance. But throughout this tournament, it definitely felt like there were different kind of hints here and there that maybe he was still struggling a little bit with conditioning and shape and like just timing and ring rust ultimately from being off as long as he was. So hopefully, if he takes this time off to get all the way back to healthy, and there might be some ring rest when he comes back. And I think that might be a thing with Kota too, is he always wants to go 500% balls to the wall. And when you're coming back from a long injury like that, I think sometimes you just need to ease yourself back into it as opposed to a main event match with a Tanahashi and then straight into the G1.
And I think Hiromu is a fantastic example of that. He went off on that neck injury for a year and a half almost.
Yeah.
Then came back for a year and suffered a torn pec.
Well, yeah,
because
came back.
He's one of those guys, balls to the wall. Him and Ibushi. Ibushi has infamy for being that person who, oh, you don't want me to moonsault off of that? Look over there while I go moonsault off of that. He definitely is that throw caution to the wind kind of guy. And like Naito, he's known for selling. So, yeah.
I mean,
what a tournament.
You talk about the Hiromu one too, though. Hiromu came back. He had 1 tag match against Eagles and Ospreay, and then right into that like 5-star top-notch Wrestle Kingdom match with Ospreay was his first singles match back, and then was back for a year before being hurt again. So yeah, sometimes you need to just ease yourself back into it. You can't come back off can't come back in after a long injury into a 30-minute classic. And Tranquilo for sure. I mean, we may have just lost 2 of the biggest stars in New Japan from this tournament this year.
Oh, my heart weeps.
So,
and how messed up did this cause everything to be with the initial injury of Will Ospreay and having to change that title kind of picture up, coming into the G1, and then boom, Naito injury, end of G1, boom, Kota Ibushi injury. Is like, guys, we don't typically hear of a lot of injuries coming out of here. Now we've got 3 major ones in a year.
3 major.
Calm down.
3 major injuries confirmed. Plus, we've got the Taichi injury that they've been playing up. We've got Tanahashi, who doesn't look to be the same Tanahashi.
The young lion with the elbow.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of bumps and scrapes and bruises. I mean, it was a quick tournament. It felt like a long time, but ultimately it's only been, I think, 4 weeks that we've been doing this, right?
That's true.
So we got a turnaround now before they go back on tour with the World Tag League and the Super Juniors, and hopefully the world starts opening up and they can start getting the Ospreys and the Jay Whites and Minoru Suzuki and the guys that are kind of out touring and traveling the world, get them all back on the show and back into the country and being able to come and go as they please, so that we can actually have some talent that's not killing themselves wrestling. What did they say? Shingo's wrestled this year, something like 90 or 100 matches this year.
And look at him go. I mean, that guy was undefeated for his first year in New Japan. He wasn't pinned or submitted in anything. He had a very dominant start to his career in New Japan. So, man, that doesn't surprise me that he's that good.
But I think that's taken us long enough. Any final thoughts before we go into the closing?
I am exhausted from this tournament, and I can't wait for the World Tag League to start in a few weeks. Fix
Oh,
my sleeping pattern only to mess it back up again.
yep. I'll put you on the big screen again. If you want to plug anything, where you'll be, where people can find you.
As far as I know, unless Cody does another reacts going into the World Tag League, I'm just going to be floating about on my social media. Twitter is going to be where you can find me. The handle there is @CollinsMelball.
Excellent. I will plug the rest here. I am going to start because I forgot at the start of the show. I am going to start this by pulling up our wonderful sponsor, Rich King at RK Athletics 1. On all the social media handles, Rich is a wonderful person in the self-care, self-workout, athletics, fitness, training, all of those things. Follow his pages, all different kinds of at-home and at the gym workout information, tidbits, tips, anything you're looking for in terms of getting healthy and getting fit. Give Rich a wonderful follow there. You can follow me, myself, right here at Cody Defoe on Twitch, on Twitter. My Twitter is fairly active, usually talking wrestling stuff. Hop in, join the conversation, have a chat with me about anything interesting in the wrestling world. Working on a couple things. Might be back here for some New Japan over the next little while with the World Tag League, the Best of Super Juniors, all of those wonderful things. If not, probably try and do something special for the Wrestle Kingdom when it comes up in January for sure. Regularly, you can catch me Tuesday nights here at Love Wrestling on all of our social medias as well, on the NXT show, where we sip the tea and spill the tea on all things NXT 2.0 in the WWE Development Center, with the wonderful Natural Astrid and the amazing Ed Fries. The three of us go through rotating and talking about all things about the developmental brand. If you want to follow that or any of our other amazing content here on Love Wrestling, you can follow us twitch.tv/lovewrestlingca. You can follow us youtube.com, Love Wrestling CA. Scrolling at the bottom, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, Love Wrestling, at Love Wrestling CA. You can shop for some wonderful merch. We have some amazing new little wine tumblers available now at lovewrestling.ch/shop. If you've enjoyed the podcast or any of our other content, check us out, ratethispodcast.com/lovewrestlingca. Let me split back here and get my face off the screen because I'm sure my eyes falling asleep on the screen right now is not attractive to anybody. There's plenty of wrestling content that came out today. If you haven't already checked it out, we have the Smark and Friends podcast where the wonderful Zach took and put out a wonderful compilation of interviews that happened at Love Wrestling's Change the Game event here in Edmonton last week, talking with a bunch of the different wrestlers and some of the other talents and personalities that were involved. Wonderful questions, wonderful interviews, some very, very entertaining people on there. I definitely recommend checking that one out. We had the J&J Power Hour also released today with JPJ and Josh Robinson talking with Astrid, the Natural Pizarro, for the first time. And then we had a wonderful episode of Between Two Beards, the flagship Love Wrestling show, with Astrid as a special guest again, and a surprise drop-in by one of our other amazing Love Wrestling talents. I'll make you go watch that if you want to see who was the surprise for that today. I'm out of breath. I'm out of energy. I am exhausted. This tournament has been amazing and draining and fun, and I've enjoyed having you on here talking with me all month, Mel. It's a shame we couldn't get Matt here. Unfortunately, his life has taken priority. He wished us all the best. We wish him all the best. We love you, man. We hope everything's going well in your life over there. Take care of yourself, and we hope to see you again when we get back for some more New Japan later in the year. Everybody else, be safe. Take care of yourselves. Care for yourselves. Care for others. Look out for your friends, and just love wrestling. For Mel, I'm Cody. Have a great night.
Adios.